Welcome to the Everything Podcast, and in this episode I'm reviewing a classic Doctor Who story, Pyramids of Mars and the Tales of the TARDIS edition, which is, instead of it being split up per episode, it's all together with some new scenes with some other cast members at the beginning and the end. So before I get to my review of Tales of the TARDIS, Pyramids of Mars, it is time for the cast list. So we have Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor, Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Shooter Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday, Gabriel Wolfe as Sutekh. Pyramids of Mars also features Bernard Archard, Michael Sherd, Peter Copley, Peter Mayock, Michael Bilton, George Tovey, Vic Talbillion, Nick Burnell, Melvin Bedford, Kevin Selway, and that's the cast list. Pyramids of Mars was written by Stephen Harris and directed by Paul Russell, with Jamie Donahue, who is the director for Season 1 Episode 7, which has already been released, and Season 1 Episode 8, which is to be released in about 5 hours time from when I'm recording of Doctor Who Season 1. The synopsis for Pyramids of Mars is: in 1911, an ancient threat rises in the tombs of Egypt and brings terror to an English country house. Sutekh has risen and the world must beware. Tales of the TARDIS Pyramids of Mars was released on the 20th of June 2024 at 8 PM GMT. My opinion on this episode is I love the scenes or the story even. I love the scenes featuring the 15th Doctor and Ruby. I enjoyed the Sarah Jane scenes, and I liked seeing how the Doctor defeated Sutekh the first time round. Without further ado, here's my review of Tales of the TARDIS, the Pyramids of Mars. We have the title sequence, and the Doctor mentions his previous victory over Sutekh to Ruby. The Doctor tells Ruby about Sarah Jane. Some scientists investigate a tomb. One of the scientists works out the time period in which this tomb was used. The scientists discover the Eye of Horus. All but one of the scientists leave the tomb. Sutekh kills the scientist who chose to stay. Sarah Jane shows off her outfit choice to the Doctor. The Doctor seems distracted. The Doctor reminds Sarah Jane that he is a Time Lord. The Doctor mentions the Brigadier, played by the late, great Nicholas Courtney. The TARDIS moves by itself, causing Sarah Jane and the Doctor to hold on to the console for dear life. Sarah Jane witnesses a vision within the TARDIS. Sarah Jane tells the Doctor about her vision. The Doctor and Sarah Jane have landed in Egypt. The building the TARDIS materialised in is the current location of Unit HQ. A man is playing the piano. This man yells at Collins. Dr. Warlock introduces himself to this man. Dr. Warlock doesn't trust the man. Collins listens in on Dr. Warlock and the man's conversation. Sarah Jane and the Doctor investigate a room. Collins meets the Doctor and Sarah Jane. Sarah Jane and the Doctor escape from a building through a window. The Doctor and Sarah Jane listen in on the man and Dr. Warlock's conversation. Dr. Warlock and the man hear a scream. Sarah Jane and the Doctor hide in a mummy. The man and Dr. Warlock find a dead man. The man calls Dr. Warlock pathetic. The Doctor stops the man from killing Dr. Warlock. The man attempts to communicate with Sutekh among other gods. The Doctor and Sarah Jane help Dr. Warlock be able to walk. The Doctor asks Sarah Jane to carry on going whilst he attempts to help Dr. Warlock. The Doctor carries Dr. Warlock. Sarah Jane hides in a ditch. The Doctor hides from the man. Sarah Jane reunites with Doctor, also bringing some medical assistance for Dr. Warlock. Dr. Warlock has been given a homemade bandage to help with his pain. The Doctor asks Mr. Scarman to not get the police involved. Sarah Jane introduces herself and the Doctor to Mr. Scarman. The Doctor asks Mr. Scarman what the year is. This story is revealed to be set in 1911, as mentioned in the synopsis. The Doctor reveals to Mr. Scarman that he has invented the telescope 40 years earlier than it is actually invented. The Doctor asks Mr. Scarman to demonstrate the telescope to him. During Mr. Scarman's demonstration to the Doctor, the telescope catches fire. The Doctor, Mr. Scarman and Sarah Jane attempt to decipher a message. The deciphered message reads, "Beware, Sutekh." Sarah Jane knows Sutekh by its Egyptian name. The Doctor believes Sutekh is the most powerful enemy he has ever faced. The Doctor orders Sarah Jane to stay with Mr. Scarman. The Doctor introduces his no weapons rule to Mr. Scarman. Sarah Jane and Mr. Scarman dishonour the Doctor's wishes. The man introduces himself to Sutekh's servant. The Doctor learns that Sarah Jane has ignored his instructions. Sutekh's servant asks the man to look at them. Sutekh's servant kills the man. The servant of Sutekh promises to deliver Sutekh's gift of death to all of creation. Sutekh's servant reveals his true form. Mr. Scarman, Sarah Jane and the Doctor hide from Sutekh's servant. The Doctor reminds Sarah Jane and Mr. Scarman how prepared Sutekh has been. Sutekh informs Mr. Scarman and Sarah Jane that Sutekh's servant informs Mr. Scarman and Sarah Jane that Sutekh is alive. The Doctor collapses after colliding with the time vortex. A man points a gun at one of the mummy creatures. Sarah Jane and Mr. Scarman drag the Doctor into a hiding place. The man discovers an invisible barrier. The man tests the barrier by throwing a stick towards it. Marcus remembers who Dr. Warlock is. Dr. Warlock mentions the Doctor and Sarah Jane. Marcus orders a creature to kill Dr. Warlock. The Doctor wakes up. Marcus orders a creature to find and kill Mr. Scarman, Sarah Jane and the Doctor. The man shoots Marcus. Marcus survives and the man runs away in terror. The Doctor believes that Sutekh and his minions are trying to build a rocket. The Doctor reveals that Sutekh is still within his prison. The prison it has been in for about 7,000 years. The Doctor and Sarah Jane introduce Mr. Scarman to the TARDIS. Sarah Jane attempts to convince the Doctor for them to return to 1980, as well as remind the Doctor that the world didn't end in 1911. The Doctor shows Sarah Jane what 1980 will look like if they don't stop Sutekh. Sarah Jane agrees with the Doctor's plan to stop Sutekh. Sutekh gives Marcus some orders to complete. Mr. Scarman learns that Marcus ordered the murder of Dr. Warlock. The Doctor reminds Mr. Scarman about a signal originating from Mars. Mr. Scarman helps the Doctor assemble a machine. Another man saves the man being killed by multiple creatures. One of these creatures knocks out the Doctor. Sarah Jane stops the creatures from killing her. Mr. Scarman apologises to the Doctor. Mr. Scarman is repeatedly reminded by the Doctor that his brother in human form no longer exists. The Doctor works out the type of rocket Sutekh and his minions are building. Mr. Scarman proposes that they blow up this rocket. The Doctor gives Mr. Scarman a task to complete. Sarah Jane and the Doctor find the invisible barrier. The Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver to try and blow up the barrier. Sutekh discovers that the Doctor is non-human. The Doctor reminds Sarah Jane of the range of Sutekh's power. The Doctor tells Sarah Jane how Sutekh ended up in his current prison. Sarah Jane throws a box containing an unstable chemical to the Doctor. The Doctor informs Sarah Jane of this. Sarah Jane apologises to the Doctor. Mr. Scarman attempts to see the good in Marcus and help him remember who he really is. Marcus threatens Mr. Scarman. Sarah Jane doesn't have faith in the Doctor's plan. The Doctor and Sarah Jane find Mr. Scarman dead. Sutekh tells Marcus his location. The Doctor, with some assistance from Sarah Jane, has disguised himself as one of the mummy-looking creatures. Sarah Jane shoots thin air. The Doctor spies on Sutekh and Marcus's conversation. The Doctor travels through the time vortex. Marcus gives one of the mummy creatures an order. The Doctor meets Sutekh. Several explosions occur. Sutekh attacks the Doctor with its mind. The Doctor introduces himself to Sutekh. Sutekh learns the Doctor is a Time Lord. The Doctor reminds Sutekh of his previous names. Sutekh refers to the Doctor as an insect. Sutekh spares Sarah Jane's life. Sutekh works out that Sarah Jane is the Doctor's companion. The Doctor insults Sutekh. Sutekh forcibly takes the Doctor's TARDIS key. Sutekh mind controls the Doctor. The Doctor calls Sutekh Master. Sutekh orders Marcus to kill Sarah Jane if the Doctor regains control of his mind. The Doctor is forced to pilot the TARDIS. One of the mummy-looking creatures is ordered to strangle the Doctor. Sarah Jane can't hear the Doctor's hearts beating and cries. The Doctor wakes up. Sarah Jane tells the Doctor their current location. Marcus and one of the mummy-looking creatures discover the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus is destroyed. The Doctor and Sarah Jane discover this. Sutekh kills Marcus. Sutekh has regained the ability of movement. The Doctor re-imprisons Sutekh. The Doctor references the Great Fire of London. The Doctor informs Ruby how Sutekh has changed since the last encounter. That is my review of Tales of the TARDIS, Pyramids of Mars. But on to the next episode. Next time on the Everything Podcast, I'll be reviewing the Doctor Who Season 1 finale, titled Empire of Death. So before I go, here is the trailer, and the final time actually that you will hear and see the Doctor Who Season 1 trailer. Here it is.
I don't think you would recognize me. I travelled with this amazing friend like you. Her name was Sarah Jane Smith, and we had some good times. But no, the story doesn't start in Britain. It starts halfway across the world, in Egypt, where an Englishman was looting the tombs of the pharaohs and disturbing the dead.
But Sutekh survived.
All this time, I thought he was dead. But he was just waiting.
You fought him. You defeated him. You've got to know something we can use against him.
That Sutekh was the size of a man. He's now evolved into a titan. How do I fight that?
And if you don't?
That was the trailer, and as I mentioned before I played the trailer, that was the final time that you're going to hear and see the Doctor Who Season 1 trailer, because the next Doctor Who episode I'll be reviewing of this new Doctor Who will be the Christmas special at the end of the year. Will probably be the start of next year, actually, unless we've got some other universe stuff, you never know. But yes, definitely, but that's not kind of the point. Obviously, with it being the finale, there's no reason for me to play we'll need to play the trailer again. So yes, I hope you enjoyed that. But back to this episode. So that's in tomorrow's episode. I'll be reviewing the Doctor Who Season 1 finale, titled Empire of Death. Yes, back to this episode. Let me know what you thought about Tales of the TARDIS Pyramid of Mars. Pyramids of Mars. If you watched it, my review, if you didn't, put both of your thoughts on those in the comments below, as well with anything else you want to cover in the channel. So it will be a review suggestion for a TV show or a movie, or something completely different like a book, comic, newspaper article, or some favourite news that you want to talk about an upcoming movie or TV show, or one that's already come out. I don't mind, or something completely different. Put all of those in the comments below as well. And you can also like, comment and subscribe. And that's it for this episode of the Everything Podcast. Goodbye.